I stumbled across a viral Reddit post. In the photo, it's the necklace I carefully picked out for my daughter. The day she got it, she was over the moon, kept saying how lucky she was to have the best mom in the world. But the words in that post told a different story. She called me a cold, manipulative mother, accused me of using money to control her, painted me as the villain in a life I fought to build for both of us. If she's so determined to sell that lie to the world, if that narrative helps her get what she wants, then fine. I'll take back everything I ever gave her. Let the lie become her truth. It was an ordinary evening when I stumbled across the post. The weather was calm, the office lights soft and steady. I was curled up on the couch, replying to emails with one hand while idly scrolling through Reddit with the other. I rarely use the platform, but lately, my PR lead had suggested I keep an eye on it just in case our brand came up in online chatter. Then it happened. A trending post popped up on the front page. The title was bold and strangely familiar. My mom only remembers I exist when she needs something. I didn't think much of it at first. Reddit sees thousands of these "my parents ruined my life" stories every day, some exaggerated, some heartbreakingly real. But the second I saw the photo attached, my heart stalled. The olive green gemstone brooch. I knew that piece better than anything I owned. I'd commissioned it from a jeweler 5 years ago, custom made for Ashley's birthday. We'd spent that day in New York dinner in a cozy little Italian spot in Soho. I still remember the way she clutched me after opening the box, beaming as she said, "I'll wear it forever. You're the best mom in the world." I tapped the profile photo. It was her. No question. She'd used a fake name and blurred the background. But that silhouetted shot, the angle, the lighting, even the curtain pattern behind her was identical to a selfie she'd sent me a month ago. My stomach twisted, but I didn't close the tab. Instead, I started reading. My mom walked out when I was 2, left me with my dad and grandma, and never looked back. I don't even remember what she did, just that whenever she called, it felt like a business transaction, cold and clipped. She said she was working hard for me, but the moment she started making money, she bought a fancy car, upgraded her house, and started dating some younger guy. Yeah, she sent gifts. Big deal. That was her way of buying forgiveness. She says I should be grateful. But somehow, she's never around when I actually need her. Hundreds of comments followed, most of them sympathetic, validating. She doesn't deserve your energy. Classic narcissist parent. They only show up when it benefits them emotionally. You're doing the best you can. That's more than enough. I couldn't tell you how I got through all those paragraphs. My fingers were trembling on the mouse by the end. Photo after photo. The designer purse I gave her. The MacBook Pro I shipped overnight before finals. The midnight blue Model Y, still gleaming in the background of her dorm parking lot. I had just finished packing her graduate school gift the week before, her new tablet, a lightweight laptop, and the deed transfer for a fully renovated 2-bedroom in Boston, walking distance from campus. I thought it would be a turning point in our relationship, but now it felt like someone had doused me in ice water, straight down the spine. I minimized the window, sat there for a long second, then opened my notes app and deleted the message I'd written for the gift card. She'd written, "My mom only remembers me when she needs something." But this past year, I'd sent her money and packages every time she hit a milestone: her birthday, semester start, new lease, a breakup. I recognized the heels she posted last week. They were the limited edition pair I'd picked up in Paris. She said I was never there when she needed me. I wanted to ask, when, exactly, did you ever actually need me? I didn't cry. But in that moment, I knew one thing. I had to read the rest. All the posts. Every timestamp. Every word. Every comment. I had to know when it started this slow rewriting of me. In places I couldn't see. The version of me she created. A stranger named Mom. I spent the entire night digging through Ashley's anonymous account. Some of her posts dated back for years when she had just started college. That Thanksgiving, we'd shared turkey in a cozy spot in Massachusetts. She'd sat beside me, laughing as she picked out a bottle of wine, wearing the camel wool coat I gave her for her birthday. But around that same time, she was writing on Reddit. She called again. Said she wanted to spend the holiday together. I know she's just lonely. I'm her last resort. She never really loved Mesh, just needs someone to fill the void in her life. Reading that felt like standing in front of a mirror and seeing a stranger stare back. I didn't reply to her text that night. Even just a simple "Happy Thanksgiving" felt impossible to send. I sat at my desk, the light still on, screen glowing in front of me, But what I saw was a memory from years ago. Back then, I wasn't Charlotte McNeil. I wasn't the founder of Yale Carter. I was a 28-year-old mom, holding a feverish 1-year-old Ashley in my arms, standing in the hallway of an emergency room with less than $200 to my name. Alan, my husband at the time, Ashley's father, was drunk. He'd smashed my phone, then the TV. That wasn't the first time he'd hit me. Our neighbor called the police. That was the first time I saw what a domestic violence report looked like. The first time I realized I couldn't stay. I had no parents to call. No friends willing to take sides. My bank account had a maxed-out credit card and a few scattered client payments. I couldn't even afford a decent lawyer. But I had to leave. I didn't want to walk away without Ashley. I really didn't. But Alan's mother, her grandmother, suddenly showed up at the house. She stood at the door sobbing in front of the cops, swearing I was unstable and trying to steal the child. She told our neighbors I had delusions, called me an unfit, hysterical woman who didn't deserve to be a mother. Alan played his part well, cried in front of the cops, played perfect dad in front of the judge. They hid Ashley so thoroughly, I couldn't get near her. Every time I went to her school, they blocked me at the entrance. We can't release a student without primary guardian approval, they'd say. The court eventually ruled in Alan's favor, said I didn't have the financial capacity to provide a stable environment. Gave custody to a man who'd staged the perfect performance. I was 28 when I first learned what legal erasure looked like with a smile and a signature. So I worked. I rented a 100-square-foot room on the west side of Los Angeles. Took a day job as an assistant. Packed custom orders at night. Some nights I was still sealing shipping boxes at 3 in the morning. I didn't get custody. But I never missed a single child support payment. Never skipped a birthday gift. I tried to stay in her life in my own way. She used to write back. When she was in 3rd grade, she sent me a letter that said, I wore the dress you sent. Everyone said I looked like a princess in a movie. Thank you, Mommy. I've kept that letter in the back pocket of my wallet ever since. It's creased and faded, but I've never had the heart to throw it away. Eventually, the brand began to take off. Yale Carter started with small jewelry pieces, then grew after a collaboration with a lifestyle company. The year Ashley started high school, I sent her first MacBook. She was so excited, FaceTimed me saying, Mom, this thing is insane. Everyone at school's jealous. I thought we were mending, slowly. I was so naive, because the version of our story she wrote on Reddit was completely different. In her narrative, I was the mother who walked away, who stayed silent, who never showed up. I gave her money, a house, the latest iPhone, and she wrote, she thinks this stuff can buy back a relationship. But some things can't be bought. And I get it. I do. I get the hurt. When I left the marriage, she was only 8. I missed milestones while I was building my business. By the time I found my footing, she'd already learned to view me through the lens of her father's version of our past. Still, I never imagined she'd rip open our wounds for strangers to gawk at, make a stage of it all. I used to think she was misled, that Alan got in her head, or her grandmother, whispering poison. But now, I'm not so sure. She's not just telling a resilient abandoned daughter story, monetizing it, turning it into a brand. She says she doesn't need me, yet every photo she posts, her jewelry, her bags, her vacations are gifts I gave her. I locked my phone. The house was quiet enough to hear the wind outside slip past the windows. I walked to the bookshelf and pulled out a black folder. Inside, transfer receipts, property deeds, insurance documents, medical records from when she was a child, and emails between me and the attorney I hired to revise my estate plan. I didn't open it to retaliate. I opened it to understand, to figure out exactly when I became the cold, calculating bad mother in her story. I needed time. More than that, I needed the truth. This wasn't the time for sentiment. It was the time to face it all head-on, even if it meant accepting a truth more painful than any stranger's judgment. That the child I held so close, protected with everything I had, may have stopped being mine a long time ago. I never saw myself as naive. In the past 2 decades, I've seen enough lies, backdoor deals, and double crosses to fill the shelves of my office, each business ledger weighed down by lessons in betrayal. I knew how to read people, how to see the spin before it hit the press. But never in my life did I imagine I'd need that kind of vigilance to protect myself from my own daughter. I saved screenshots of every Reddit post. Every single one. I organized them by topic, timestamp, engagement. Then I went further. I started matching her post times against our message history. Sometimes, she'd be texting me, "Love you, Mom. Let's catch up soon," and posting online just minutes later. She wants to video chat again. I know she's just lonely. I feel like I'm the only thing holding her together. It's exhausting. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was having a hard day. Maybe she misunderstood something I said. But as I scrolled deeper, saw the polished photos, the carefully written captions, the hashtags chosen with almost surgical precision, I knew this wasn't a random emotional outburst. This was a brand narrative. I'm no tech expert, but I asked one of our content interns to run a quick analysis on her account. I didn't give them her name, just the structure. They skimmed a few posts, glanced at the timing, the layout, the optimization strategy. This is managed, the intern said. She's not doing this alone. Someone's helping her plan. Whoever it is, they know what they're doing. I closed the file and quietly wrote down one name in my notebook. Alan, Ashley's father. He hasn't changed. Not one damn bit. Alan used to be charming, tall, disarming, knew exactly when to flash a smile. But behind closed doors, he was pure control. A man who couldn't stand the idea of being overshadowed, especially by a woman. When I started my business, he mocked me, said I was irresponsible, that I was embarrassing myself by running around like a wannabe CEO. When I started to gain traction, he shifted tactics, accused me of neglecting the family, called me too ambitious to be a real mother. And when the money started rolling in, he painted himself as the poor, abandoned husband, told Ashley through crocodile tears, "Your mom left us. She only cares about her company now." I thought we'd moved on. Years had passed. We hadn't spoken in ages. But now I see he'd never left the conversation. He just switched mediums. He used Ashley like a proxy, feeding her a script line by line, drop by drop, like poison disguised as truth. I remembered 2 years ago when Ashley told me her dad was sick, needed help with medical bills. Without hesitation, I wired her the money. She texted back, "Thank you, Mom." Now I'm almost certain that money never touched a hospital. It went straight to Alan. If Ashley's social content was part of a coordinated strategy, Alan was definitely cashing in. That's exactly who he is, never the villain, always the grieving father in the background. And Ashley, maybe she started off just echoing what she heard. Maybe she really did believe it for a while. But by the time she was curating hashtags, monetizing trauma, running brand partnerships off her abandoned daughter persona, she wasn't being misled anymore. She was in on it. I opened my laptop and logged into the back end of my company's content portal. Yael Carter had been prepping a campaign, Second Act Stories, a collaboration with a nonprofit that helps single women re-enter the workforce. The theme hit close to home. It was meant to launch next quarter. But I changed my mind. I needed to move faster. Not to defend myself. Not to win a PR battle. But to protect everything I'd spent the last 15 years building from being wrecked by a narrative I never agreed to star in. I started updating my public profiles. I called Cindy, my most empathetic livestream host, and asked her to lead a new discussion next week. The topic: do you really know the single moms in your life? I didn't mention Ashley. I didn't have to. I just wanted to hear what the audience had to say. Then I reached out to our editorial team and requested a video script. The title: The Absent Mother Has Her Battles. 2. I wasn't trying to reclaim my name. I just wanted to give voice to the others, like Memethers, who weren't perfect, who missed moments, but never stopped showing up in their own way. Mothers who were quietly written out of their children's stories. I'd already lost control of the narrative once in court. When Alan played the victim, so well the judge believed every word. I wasn't going to lose again. This time, it wasn't just about me. It was for every woman who'd ever been erased. I closed my laptop, took a deep breath, and whispered to the empty room, "Alan, you still think you're writing my story? Not this time. Not in my voice. Not with my name. Not ever again." I knew I had to find a way to talk to Ashley. Not to confront her. Not to lay all my cards on the table. But to feel her out. To test the ground like walking a tightrope in heels. If I pushed too hard, too fast, she'd bolt. She always did. But I had to know, was she simply lost in someone else's narrative, or had she become the one writing it? So I called her. From my work phone. She picked up quickly, her tone upbeat. "Mom, what's going on? Didn't expect to hear from you." I could hear the wind in the background. She was outside. "I was just thinking about you," I said, keeping my voice light. Work finally calmed down a bit. How's school going? Fine, she said, then paused. Just overwhelmed. My professor's impossible, and I've got a lab report that's driving me insane. Maybe I'll come visit, I said casually. A beat of silence. You're coming to Boston. I was thinking about it. I said, maybe bring someone with Masamion I'd like you to meet. The wind on her end suddenly died down. I could picture her stopping in her tracks. Who are you bringing? I waited a second before answering, letting it breathe. A friend. Someone I've been seeing. I thought maybe it was time you met. Another pause. Then she laughed light, but sharp around the edges. A friend, as in, dating friend. Yes, I said, smoothing my voice. It's been a few months. Nothing serious yet, but I like where it's going. She went quiet. I half expected her to tease me or crack a joke. Instead, her voice dropped, tight with suspicion. So this is real? Yes, I said. He's a good man. We're taking things slow, but it feels right. You want me to meet him because he might be your, what, life partner, or are you just afraid of being old and alone? Her words sliced clean. I flinched. She wasn't done. Are you seriously doing this now? She snapped. Do you know how pathetic this looks? You think I'm going to be your backup plan forever. You're trying to split up my future what? Share my inheritance with some guy you just met. The silence on my end must have spoken louder than any protest. You say you love me, she continued, her voice shaking with rage. But the moment I start grad school, you're off playing the dating game like some high school girl. You couldn't even wait. I didn't speak. I could hear her breathing, sharp and erratic, like a cornered animal ready to strike. After 10 long seconds, I finally said, Ashley, you know the apartment near campus, the one I was going to sign over to you. The line went silent. I've decided to put that plan on hold. Her voice dropped an octave. What did you just say? I don't know if you're the right person to have it anymore. I said it quietly, but she heard it, and then she lost it. You'll regret this. Don't expect me to ever call a useless woman like you mom again. I didn't respond. She shouted something else. I didn't catch it. I'd already ended the call. I sat on the couch, staring out the window, but all I could see was a much smaller Ashley, the one who used to wrap herself in my coat, nibble the sleeve of her sweatshirt while watching cartoons. She liked grape soda and sketching animals with oversized eyes. She was a soft child. Shy. Gentle. How did that girl become this? I've asked myself that more times than I can count. She was 8 when I first tried to bring her home for good. It was a winter weekend, cold and brittle. I'd packed her things, determined to make it work. Then her grandmother blocked the door and told Ashley, your mom doesn't love you. You'll never be happy with her. Ashley just stared, big eyes, frozen, confused, not crying, just watching me. Her grandmother kept pushing. Your mom is selfish, a failure, just putting on a show. I didn't see it at the time, but those words were already taking root. After that, every visit got harder. She's busy. She's at school. She's not feeling well. I wrote letters rarely answered. Call got clipped replies. Once, she told me, Grandma says you only come around to prove you're still alive. She was 10 when she said that. It stuck. I kept thinking she'd understand someday. I was wrong. She didn't want the truth. She wanted a version that made sense of her hurt. One where I left because I wanted to. Where every gift was guilt. Where this new man was just a threat to her inheritance. She lives between 2 realities, mine, and the one built for her. And it's the latter she's wrapped herself in like armor. I'm no longer mom to her. I'm a backdrop. A foil. Proof of how far she's come. How strong she's grown. How damaged she's been. I used to believe I could reach her. That if I gave enough, loved enough, explained enough, she'd walk back into the truth. But now I see it. She doesn't want to walk out of that story. That story gives her sympathy, influence, control. What she never realized is control was always in her hands. I gave her choices. She used them to build a cage. The next day, she posted a new video. I didn't follow her account, but the platform had pushed it to my feed. She was sitting in her dorm, soft lighting, face a little flushed like she'd just cried. Sometimes, you think you're someone's everything, but you're really just a placeholder until someone better comes along. She says she loves me, but she doesn't even care where I live. The comments poured in. That kind of mom only throws money at problems. I'd rather have a broke mom than one who's this fake. You deserve better, girl. I watched the screen, and I felt calm. She'd made the video in response to our call. That much was obvious. She didn't get what she wanted from Meso. She turned to the crowd, hoping public pressure would finish the job. But this time, she'd miscalculated. I wasn't backing down. Not just for me. Because this game she was playing with emotion, with public guilt, with half-truths and curated tears. It ends now. It ends with me reclaiming my name, and the version of me she tried to erase. In the days that followed, I muted every notification from the platforms linked to Ashley's account. Not because I was avoiding her, because I knew the storm had officially arrived. Ashley was never the type to take a hit quietly. Even over something small like a pair of limited edition sneakers, I once promised her, but couldn't get in time to send 3 texts and call twice, demanding to know if I had forgotten her on purpose. So when I canceled the deed transfer for the Boston apartment, I knew it wouldn't be the end of it. I didn't have to wait long. It was Friday night. I was still at the office, reviewing a batch of product mock-ups from the design team, when Cindy came bursting in from the live stream studio still wearing her headset. "Charlotte, you need to see this," she said, handing me her tablet. Her voice was tight, urgent. "Your daughter just went live. Full name. Full blast." I tapped the screen. There she was, Ashley, wearing the cream wool coat I bought her last winter. A few candles flickered on the table in front of her, giving the room that soft, confessional glow. Carefully curated, perfectly lit. She opened with a headline hook. "Have you ever been emotionally blackmailed by the one person who's supposed to love you unconditionally?" Then she began her story. A story about a mother who lived alone and used money as a leash, about a woman who bought affection with gifts, used guilt as a currency, and expected gratitude as payment. She spoke with trembling sincerity, even let her eyes gloss over with tears. She said she'd kept quiet for years because she didn't want to be labeled an ungrateful daughter. The comments poured in like a tidal wave. "This is so real. My mom's the exact same. They just want you to orbit them like dogs. Thank you for saying it. You're helping so many of us." I watched all 5.5 minutes of that video, frozen, not heartbroken, not furious, just cold and clear. She had gone full name, full face. She wasn't just lying anymore. She was declaring war. She called for a boycott of my brand and posted a blurred photo she claimed was me out to dinner with a younger man. This wasn't a misstep. It was strategic. I closed the tablet and turned to Cindy. "Tell the content team to queue up the archived footage," I said. "I'm going live tomorrow morning. Myself." She nodded. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, concern, maybe, or relief. But she didn't hesitate. "It's time." I'd been waiting for this moment longer than I cared to admit. I wasn't unprepared. 2 years ago, when Ashley first started building her online presence, her current boyfriend Luke had already shown up. He was the charming type, casual but calculated, always grinning like he knew something you didn't. The first time he joined us for dinner, he lifted his wine glass and said, "It's impressive, really. Still this energetic at your age. Most people would have switched to supplements by now." Back then, I brushed it off. Now I see it for what it was: blatant testing of boundaries. I used to believe Ashley had simply been manipulated, brainwashed by her father. But recently, after digging deeper, I realized Luke had been playing his own game. Ashley may have been in love. Luke, however, was in business. After her video dropped, my team tracked down the metadata on her account. The listed content advisor and platform partner were both tied to a shell company registered under Luke's name. He wasn't supporting her voice. He was monetizing her grief. And I was his antagonist. The worse I looked, the more compelling Ashley's persona became. I glanced over at the award in my office corner: Female Entrepreneur of the Year. I'd won it in San Francisco the previous spring. Ashley had sent me a congratulatory message that day. She'd written, "I'm so proud of you, Mom." Looking back, it was probably part of the script. At 10 a.m. sharp the next morning, I sat down in front of the livestream camera. This wasn't a product demo. It was a story hour. The segment was titled, "What You See Isn't Always What's True." I never mentioned Ashley's name, never referenced her account. I simply told a story about a woman who survived domestic abuse, about how she rebuilt her life from scratch, about how she saved every spare dollar to support the daughter she couldn't legally bring home, how every birthday she wondered what she'd missed. I showed receipts, bank transfers, court rulings, police reports. I pulled out the little tokens Ashley once made: mystic figure drawings, paper hearts, a necklace made of string and plastic beads. "This one," I said, holding up a crayon sketch she made when she was 6. She drew me holding her in my arms. "Mommy is my favorite person," she wrote at the top. The chat slowed. Then a single comment blinked onto the screen. "You were always there. We just only heard one side." Then more followed. "My mom sent me letters my dad never let me read. I thought she didn't care." Society always listens to the child's pain but rarely asks what the mother went through. By the end of the hour, the stream had racked up 10 times our average viewership. Cindy texted me afterward. "This time, you showed up. Not as a CEO. As you." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That same night, Ashley's video kept circulating. But the tide had shifted. People began stitching in clips from my stream, juxtaposing her sob stories with photos of her wearing my brand's coats, holding the bags I gave her. One comment hit especially hard. "You say she wasn't there, but everything on you says otherwise." I didn't post again. Didn't tweet. Didn't clap back. Didn't defend. Some wars aren't won by shouting. Sometimes, you just have to stand your ground. I shut my laptop, took a breath. The real fight had only just begun. After that live stream, I didn't rush back into the spotlight. It wasn't retreat. It was strategy. I knew the real game hadn't even begun. In this era, facts don't equate to truth. People believe the loudest voice, the most dramatic tears, the story told first, not necessarily the one that's real. But now, I had started telling mine. For 3 days, I stayed silent on social media. Not a single update. But behind the scenes, our dashboard kept lighting up. Cindy sent me screenshots. The Reddit thread tied to Ashley's post was beginning to crack. Didn't she say last year her mom bought her that apartment? Now she says only her dad supports her. Which is it? If her mom was so controlling, who paid her tuition? I used to really believe her, but something's not adding up. Her team moved fast. Comments were deleted within minutes. But I knew it was too late. Once a dam leaks, you can't patch it with denial. Especially not when I chose to speak again. It was a Monday morning. I sat in my office. Filmed a simple clip less than a minute long. No background music. No filter. Just one sentence, delivered quietly to the camera. Before you repost a cry for help, ask yourself, have you heard the other side of the story? Behind me on the wall was a photo. Ashley, maybe 5 years old, curled in my lap, biting her fingertip like she always did when she was shy. Her eyes bright as glass marbles. I said nothing more. That video was shared over 60,000 times on X. Some people rolled their eyes, called it a guilt trip. Others said it wasn't raw enough. But more and more started digging. They pulled up Ashley's old posts from 2 years ago, compared timelines, tone shifts, language, noted how the narrative had subtly changed. She once said her mother hadn't spoken to her in a decade, but then thanked her publicly for a graduation gift. She claimed she bought her first designer coat with savings, but earlier posts showed her tagging mine, thanking me for the perfect holiday present. And then came Luke. I wasn't the one who exposed him. An anonymous marketing consultant posted a thread analyzing Ashley's online trajectory. Story beats, content cycles, sponsorship pacing. The account had all the hallmarks of professional management. Attached was a payment ledger traced back to a shell company registered under Luke's name. And then someone resurfaced a clip from a podcast interview where he said, "Emotion is currency. People love family drama. A daughter crying about her mom. That's viral gold. Add a tear. Throw in a few childhood stories, you've got a content engine." That quote was the match. Ashley's comment section lit up in flames. "So you monetized your mom. Was this whole thing a setup? She buys you clothes and you call it control. Seriously?" I said nothing. Instead, I posted a photo carousel from my company account titled, 10 years of deposits. 10 years of showing up. They were never meant to be public, just my own quiet record of love. But now, they told the truth I hadn't spoken. Screenshots of bank transfers. Cards I wrote by hand. Photos of boxes packed with gifts and letters. All dated and documented. The post ended with, "She never had to earn my love. She only had to receive it." The comments were unlike anything I expected. "She's not perfect, but she clearly loves her daughter." My mom was the same way, silent, stubborn, but always there. Sometimes love isn't loud. It's just consistent. I got 2 unexpected DMs that day. One was from Ashley's high school counselor. "I always thought you were absent." That's what she told everyone. But now, I think that was just the version she needed to believe. The The second came from a young woman I'd once sponsored through a women's job training program. Your live stream reminded me of my own mom. She wasn't around when I needed her most, but later when she tried, she never gave up. I think I'm ready to forgive her. I sat at my desk, reading those messages. My heart a storm of emotion. Forgiveness. It's a loaded word. But sometimes, the weight of it doesn't just belong to the one asking for it. Sometimes it's heavier for the one giving it. Ashley wasn't there yet. Her account had gone quiet. Fewer posts. No comments. But I knew this wasn't the end. This was just the pause between acts. She hadn't lost a platform. She'd lost something harder to win back: trust. The divide in public opinion was only the beginning. My counterattack wasn't over. I still needed to face her one-on-one. Because she wants to be the storyteller. Fine. I'll tell a story too. Let's see what people think when they finally see the real her. Ashley stayed silent for an entire week. No posts, no comments, no updates on any of her platforms. But I knew she wasn't done. She was waiting, or more accurately, plotting her next move. On the 7th day, I got a message from her. Let's meet. I want to hear what you have to say in person. No apology. No accusation. Just a flat, measured tone. Like she was asking about the weather. But I saw right through it. That wasn't a peace offering. It was a reset attempt. She thought that if we sat face to face, she could steer the conversation back to her terms like she always did. Not this time. I typed back 3 words. You pick the place. We ended up at an upscale Italian restaurant. The kind with dim lighting, quiet waitstaff, and 30 risottos. Ashley showed up late, perfectly made up, wearing the beige trench I gave her last year for my birthday. She sat down like nothing had ever happened. Flipping through the menu. This place makes a great truffle risotto, she said casually. You should try it. I didn't answer. She glanced up, finally noticing the tension. What? You agreed to meet. What's with the attitude? I did, I said, setting my bag down, voice steady. But I'm not here to mend anything. She shut the menu, leaned back in her chair. So, what are you here for? The future, I said. And the inheritance. She raised an eyebrow, like I just told a joke. So this is a ledger meeting. You want to settle accounts. Not settle. I corrected her. Sever. A flicker of something confusion, maybe passed through her eyes. What do you mean? You're an adult now, Ashley. Legally. Emotionally. Perhaps not, but the law doesn't care. I no longer have any financial or legal obligation to you. She let out a short, dry laugh, rolling her eyes. So this is you cutting me off. You really think acting like some untouchable matriarch is going to make me thank you? I didn't flinch. Instead, I reached into my bag and slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside was the notarized draft of my updated estate plan. Effective immediately. I said, you are no longer a beneficiary of any trust or holding under my name. She stared at the envelope. Her jaw tightened. Her knuckles went pale. You're insane, she whispered. No, I said, calm and firm. I'm finally sane. Her face shifted tight. Anita's reality sank in. This is the second time you've abandoned me, she said through clenched teeth. The first time, I replied, was me trying to survive. And I swear to you I fought like hell for custody. You just didn't see it. But this time, Ashley, you left me no choice. Don't make excuses, she snapped. You think throwing money at me all these years gives you moral high ground. I looked her in the eye. You never wanted to hear my side. You wanted silence. Submission. You wanted a mom who'd mail gifts and keep quiet, so you could play the perfect daughter when the mood struck. Her voice grew sharp, brittle. You say you love me, but you don't know me. You never asked what I needed when I was 16. You just kept sending things and calling it love. I thought I was giving you space, I said quietly. I thought you didn't want me to hover. You never really showed up, she spat. And now you're trying to erase me completely, like I never existed. I nodded once. If your idea of existing is using me for content, for leverage, for guilt trip, side rather you didn't. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, her mask cracked. So I'm the manipulative one, she said. And you're just the tragic, misunderstood mother. I stood up slowly, looking down at her. I never wanted to be a story. I never posted you. I never filmed our conversations. I never turned you into a brand. She blinked hard. Her voice dropped. You're just gonna throw me away. I gave you choice after choice, I said, and you used each one to monetize our pain. I'm not a perfect mother, Ashley, but you're not an innocent child. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. I picked up my bag, slinging it over my shoulder. You want an audience? I said. You don't want a mother. Charlotte, she said suddenly emphatically, purposefully calling me by name. You'll regret this. I paused, turned to look at her one last time. No, I said. Regret is your problem now. And I walked out. The air outside hit like a slap cold and honest. More honest than the flickering candlelight inside that polished little restaurant. I walked to the corner and stopped beneath a street lamp. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the email I'd received from my lawyer just before I walked in. One line, bolded at the top of the screen. Your updated estate filing has been initiated. I had expected Ashley to lie low for a while, even just for show. But less than 48 hours later, she was back on live stream. I was on my couch at home, the TV muted, remote in hand, but I didn't change the channel. I just sat there, watching. She had changed her aesthetic. No more moody candlelight or late-night heart-o-heart vibes. This time, she was at her dorm desk. No makeup. Eyes red, like she'd just finished crying. She looked straight into the camera. Her voice was hoarse. My mom told me I'm no longer her daughter. She paused. Bit her lip time just right. I'm not as strong as you think. I know I've said things I shouldn't have, and maybe I went too far posting about our private life. But she's not innocent, either. I tilted my head back and let out a dry laugh. Luke's fingerprints were all over this. This was his style-tight narrative arcs. Well-timed vulnerability. Just enough space for the audience to project empathy. The comments rolled in fast. That's cold. What kind of mom says that? There's no winning in a family like this. If I were her, I'd be falling apart too. I didn't comment. Didn't go online to defend myself. I wasn't planning on engaging again. But then someone else did it for me. 3 days later, a woman named Sophie Weller posted a video on X. She was a former neighbor of Ashley's, a social worker who'd assisted with community intervention efforts near Alan's house when Ashley was younger. She filmed it in her kitchen. You could see a coffee pot steaming behind her, her hands shaking slightly as she started to speak. I saw her live stream. I wasn't going to say anything. But I can't let that version stand alone. I remember Charlotte McNeil standing outside the house with a cake she wasn't even trying to come in, just wanted to hand it to her daughter. And she was turned away. I drove her home that day. She cried in my car for 30 minutes. She used to mail clothes every month. I know because I saw them sent right back still sealed. The grandmother said Ashley couldn't accept them. She stopped, sighed, and looked straight into the lens. Charlotte wasn't perfect. But she never gave up. Hours later, another voice came forward. Ashley's old middle school English teacher. Charlotte called every semester. She checked on grades, asked about behavior, sent supplies. One year, Ashley was struggling in math. Charlotte offered to pay for tutoring. The father declined, said it wasn't necessary. Those testimonies began to chip away at Ashley's narrative, one post, one sentence at a time. And then, ironically, Luke flinched first. That same evening, he set his social media profiles to private, deleted photos, archived his content, and purged every trace of Ashley from his public pages. Like a fox sensing a fire before it spreads, he bailed early. Ashley, meanwhile, kept broadcasting, still clinging to the image of the wounded but resilient daughter. But the tone in the comments was shifting. Even her teachers are stepping in now. So it wasn't her mom that disappeared, it was her dad who blocked access. I used to believe every word. Now I don't know what to think. Ashley's eyes darted more in this video. Her voice wavered. I wasn't lying. There are some things I can't talk about. Okay. I turned off the TV. Not out of anger. Because I didn't need to see her unravel in real time. This game was over. Not because I said so. Because she lost the plot. She thought she could weaponize sympathy. Thought she could twist silence into guilt and turn patience into proof of neglect. But you can't exploit kindness forever. And you can't mistake a mother's restraint for weakness. I walked to my study and opened the drawer where I'd kept the last unsent gift and envelope. Inside was a letter I wrote 3 years ago. It was meant to be a graduation gift. On the front, I had written, "To my daughter when you are ready." I held it in my hands for a moment. Then I tore it clean in two. Afterward, I opened my laptop. The screen glowed to life. I pulled up the draft email from my attorney titled Updated, Will 2.0. I scrolled to the final clause and typed one last line. All personal assets will be allocated to a private fund for independent women in crisis. Ashley McNeil is to be removed as beneficiary, permanently. I clicked send. And for the first time in years, I exhaled. Time has a way of washing everything away. The beautiful, the bitter, the parts we swore would never fade. One morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my usual cup of coffee when a text from Cindy came through. Her account's been taken down. Looks like Luke bailed. I set my cup down, eyes lingering on the message for a few seconds. Then I looked up. The sun poured through the slats of the kitchen blinds, landing gently on the back of my hand. Warm, steady, just right. I didn't reply. There was no need. Ashley's account being removed was inevitable. Her narrative had completely collapsed. After Sophie and the middle school teacher came forward, others followed. Not gossipers, not attackers, just people quietly offering the version of the mother Ashley never talked about. She couldn't hide anymore. And the real unraveling wasn't the deletion of her profile. It was the silence. People started distancing themselves. Luke was the first to disappear. He wiped every trace of their connection, took down photos, scrubbed his bio, even changed his LinkedIn back to undergraduate marketing student. I didn't check if they were still together. I didn't care. To me, they were just two codependent players in a game that was already falling apart. As for her father, of course, he offered nothing. I heard she'd reached out to Alan, asking if he could help cover some of her tuition or mounting financial mess. He apparently replied with a single line. Didn't you say you didn't need your parents? Go ask your mom. That was their relationship in a nutshell. Control dressed as love. Use disguised as family. But now, every card she held had lost its worth. Cindy told me later that Ashley had quietly withdrawn from school. The university didn't release a statement, but there were whispers. She couldn't keep up with tuition, couldn't face her peers. I didn't investigate. I had already stepped out of that loop. Instead, I spent the next 2 weeks reorganizing everything. Accounts, stocks, business assets, real estate, future licensing agreements. Then I met with my lawyer. We redirected a portion of my estate to a new foundation I named Second Voice. It wasn't about redemption. It wasn't about proving I was the better mother. It was for women like Muho had survived alone, rebuilt quietly, and lived for years in the background of someone else's version of their life. I didn't want us to be labeled anymore. Not the silent mother. Not the failed wife. Not the unstable woman with too many emotions. We deserve space to speak. Even if not loudly, at least clearly. The advisory board came together faster than I expected. Several young women designers, developers, nonprofit leaders volunteered within days. Our first strategy session was in a co-working space just outside San Francisco. After the meeting, I grabbed my coat and opened the door to leave, only to find a girl standing quietly in the hallway. Ball cap pulled low, eyes down. She looked up when she saw me and froze. It took me a moment, but I recognized her. Jenna, Ashley's former roommate. She looked unsure, almost apologetic, but eventually said, I'm not here to defend her. I just thought you should know she's not doing well. I stayed quiet. She went on. She keeps trying to get back into her accounts. It's like she's spiraling, but no one's helping her now. I nodded. Thank you for telling me. She hesitated. You don't want to see her. It's not that I don't want to. I said. My voice was steady, not harsh. I just don't know if I can ever accept her again. Not really. Jenna bit her lip. Something in her expression softened, then folded. I understand, she said quietly. And then she walked away, her footsteps featherlight, like she was afraid to disturb something sacred. I turned back to the whiteboard in the meeting room. Still up was the line I'd written during our opening session. A reminder. A compass. If you don't speak your truth, you become whatever version someone else chooses to tell. And I had finally chosen mine. 5 years slipped by in a blink. That day, I had just finished an in-person interview. The weather was unexpectedly clear. I was gathering my files, preparing to leave, when a young volunteer stepped into the room and lightly tapped the edge of the table. Ms. McNeil, there's someone waiting for you outside. She says she's your daughter. My hands froze. It wasn't shock. It was something older. A dull, familiar ache, like a scar that hadn't flared in years, but still remembered how it hurt. I stepped outside, past the flower beds and through the narrow walkway that led to the venue's exit. There she was, Ashley, standing at the gate, and next to her a small girl, no older than 4 or 5. The child had thick, dark brown hair and wore a bright, overly decorative dress. Clearly, Someone had taken their time dressing her that morning. Ashley looked uneasy, her head slightly bowed, one hand resting lightly on the girl's shoulder. I stopped a few feet in front of them. I didn't say anything. After a few seconds, she lifted her eyes. It's been a while. Her voice was cautious, carefully composed. This is Emma. She glanced sideways, added quickly. She came with me. The little girl looked up, offering a polite, practiced smile. Hello. I nodded, my gaze lingering on the two of them for a moment before turning to Ashley. You're not about to tell me she's your daughter, are you? Ashley's eyes flickered just a flash, but enough. She could have lied, could have nodded, but she didn't. She's not, she murmured. She's a friend's child. I didn't push, just let out a soft, neutral hum. The air chilled. Something settled between USA quiet recognition that the old tricks wouldn't work anymore. She hadn't lied. Not completely. But she wasn't ready to face what it meant to be caught. She had hoped a child might soften me, reopen that old door labeled mother. But I think she saw it, even before I spoke, that I was no longer the woman she remembered manipulating. I turned to the little girl. How old are you, sweetheart? 4.5, she said, her voice clear. I crouched down slightly, touched her shoulder. That dress looks lovely on you. She smiled, lips tight, unsure of what to do with kindness from a stranger. When I straightened, Ashley's eyes were red, not weeping, just worn. She looked like someone who had come to the end of her script, unsure what to say when no one was prompting her lines. You're not here for forgiveness, I said gently. You're here to see if there's anything left to salvage. She didn't deny it, just looked down and said, You seem to be doing well. I nodded once. She looked back up, and for a second, I saw the girl she used to be, confused, proud, and hurt. I've missed you, she said quietly. I stayed where I was. Over the years, I'd imagined a dozen versions of this moment. Some ended in shouting, others in sobs, a few in long, aching silences. But this was a page turning. I answered calmly. I hope you find your way. One that doesn't depend on blame, or pity, or spinning stories. When that day comes, maybe we'll see each other more often. She pressed her lips together and nodded. We stood there for another moment. She didn't reach out to hug me. She didn't even step closer. And I didn't either. Eventually, she took Emma's hand and turned away. As they walked past the flower beds, the little girl glanced over her shoulder and waved. I gave a soft smile and nodded back. When they crossed the gate and disappeared out of sight, I finally let out a long breath. That child wasn't mine. And Ashley, at least, the version I knew, wasn't mine anymore either. But something in that moment made sense. I used to think cutting ties meant slamming the door shut. But I understand now. Real separation is letting go of the hope that they'll ever be who you believe they could become. Back inside, Jenna was still collecting notes from the interview. She looked up as I walked in. Was that her? I nodded. She's gone. Jenna hesitated, then said softly, You look quieter now. I gave a small smile. Maybe I finally understand that some things are meant to be lost. I packed up my bag. Outside, the sun was still shining. Somewhere nearby, I could hear the laughter of children. It felt like a life I used to belong to. Redemption doesn't happen in a moment. Neither does forgiveness. But every woman who's been shattered and rebuilt deserves to know. We don't have to be perfect to live honestly. We are allowed to outgrow our pain, even if the apology never comes.